eyes are the windows to your soul. So eye contact is very, very important. Sincere smile. That's more difficult than, it's very easy to say, very difficult to practice. So this sincerity, you have to have that sincerity when you're smiling at someone. And when your eyebrows go upwards, that's a sincere smile.
So the eyebrows going up.
Yes, isn't that more sincere? Like I'm looking at you and I'm smiling and I'm smiling like this. Isn't that a lot more sincere? So I think that sincerity is very important when you're meeting someone for the very first time. Image consulting is a lot about trying to make you look what you do. So an investment banker, he should look like a very successful investment banker. A lawyer, he should look like a very credible lawyer. And then you can command a better price. When you look successful, you can be successful. When you go for a nice fine dining restaurants, they give you nice bread rolls and you don't really cut it inside. You put one bite size and smaller bite size.
So you break your bread, you don't cut your bread.
No, you don't.
Right? So you break your bread and then you use
bites.
The small bites, not a big monster bite, so you can have conversation after. Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we're going to be learning about a word called etiquette. Now, etiquette is something that my grandmother used to love lecturing me on because when I was growing up, she had read one book on etiquette and kept talking about this. And obviously, as a child, I could not pronounce that word or spell it. But today we have a coach who's going to talk to us about etiquette. And I think it's absolutely fascinating as a topic. So join me in welcoming Konkana Bakshi to the Habit Coach podcast. Konkana, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me over.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here, Ashton. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love that we are matching in our yellow. We're going to add brightness to the world.
Indeed.
Love it.
Yellow is the color of the season, I feel.
Is it? Is it?
I reckon. It's spring. It's beautiful.
Konkana, what is etiquette? Apart from being a hard word to pronounce, what is etiquette?
Let me ask you back this question. When I spell out the word etiquette, what is the first word or the perception that comes in your mind?
It all looks very proper.
Proper. Okay, that's one word we got out. What's the other two words you think?
It is very rigid or structured.
Rigid. Rigid. What's the other word?
I think it's fancy.
Fancy. So those are exactly what etiquette is not.
I love it.
So it's a perception that etiquette is definitely not what a rigid code of conduct is. So what your grandmother must be reading when she was reading probably a book by Emily Post. And Emily Post always, she was, we obviously reckon etiquette with Emily Post. And Emily Post said that etiquette is everything but not a rigid code of conduct.
Oh, wow.
It's not rigid and it's definitely not fancy.
Okay, so that is the exact opposite of what we think etiquette is.
Completely.
And we used to joke with my grandmother saying that you only read the first 3 chapters and you're lecturing us on this. So clearly maybe it's there in chapter 4 onwards. So what is etiquette then?
So etiquette is how you make a person feel in your company.
How you make a person feel in your company.
So if you are in my company and I make you feel intimidated, or if I don't make you feel, if you think she's snobbish or she's too fancy, that goes against etiquette.
Okay. So etiquette's about making the person feel comfortable.
Very comfortable in your presence. So how you make someone feel in your presence, and that is the start and end of etiquette. Now, etiquette is divided into 2 sectors. One is manners, and that's what people perceive etiquette to be. But manners is the surface level of etiquette. The foundation of etiquette are the principles of etiquette.
Okay.
Your values, your consideration, respect, and honesty. Those are the principles and the foundation of etiquette. Now, if you think of etiquette as a pyramid, manners are right on the on the top of etiquette. But without the foundation of etiquette, manners would have very little values.
Without the principles that you live your life by.
Without the principles,
it'll
like
just be
ethics.
lip service.
Ethics, the values, how you make someone feel in your company. Conflict resolution is a big part of etiquette. How do you resolve relationship issues or business issues? How do you conduct yourself? Relationship building is a very big part of etiquette. Not many people know about it. So etiquette is how fabulously you build relationship with people.
How fabulously you can build a relationship
That
with
is
people.
correct.
So how would you even go about understanding this or teaching this to somebody? Like it sounds like a very vast area. What do you begin with? Do you begin with by teaching manners? Do you begin with by teaching value systems? Like how do you begin teaching this to
So
people?
I think the first thing is good to learn the first impression. Like when I meet you for the very first time, you have never met me before, you've heard of me and we spoke once, right? Now, when you meet me for the very first time, we produce a hormone called oxytocin, and that's only done within the first 7 seconds. How you feel in my company right at the beginning when you meet me for the very first time? Do I make you feel good? And a very small amount of oxytocin is produced when the first impression or the first greeting is a good one. And that's how good relationships are built. So either you like me or not so much.
And that happens in the first 7 seconds.
First 7 seconds, the first time that we are meeting someone for the very first time. And when the greeting is a good one, that relationship starts off on a very, very good note. So you may not also, coming back to image consulting, you may not remember 15 times from now what Konkana was wearing on the 15th time I met her. You'll always remember what she was wearing on the first day, that, okay, she wore a yellow dress or something like that. So again, first impression.
So first impression is important. So what are the steps of making a great first impression?
Very good question. Eye contact. Okay? Eyes are the windows to your soul. So eye contact is very, very important. Sincere smile. That's more difficult than, it's very easy to say, very difficult to practice. So this sincerity, you have to have that sincerity when you're smiling at someone. And when your eyebrows go upwards, that's a sincere smile.
So the eyebrows going up.
Yes, isn't that more sincere? Like I'm looking at you and I'm smiling and I'm smiling like this. Isn't that a lot more sincere? So I think that sincerity is very important when you're meeting someone for the very first time, even in your conversation skills when you're talking to someone. So that sincerity, that facial expression is very important.
Interesting. Eye contact. Now, I know so many people who've read eye contact in a book and then give you this piercing glance that goes straight through you. So what are the steps to a great eye contact?
So you look sincerely, but then you don't look for a very, very long time. You obviously blink and look away and then you look. A good way to understand is 70-30 modules. So when I'm having a conversation with you, when I'm talking, I am moving my face and I can look away 30%. So 30% is important. When you're listening to me, that's more important. So that intent listening factor, the eye contact is more important, that you are paying attention, and with a little nod, that sincerity comes, that, okay, you're listening to me, you're paying attention.
So it is the nodding that's as important as part of the eye contact as well. So
the listener should pay attention 70% of the time when it comes to eye contact. When I'm talking, I can do about 30%.
Okay. What about head tilting or head position? Doesn't that play in a...
That's not an international thing.
No, not the head wobble.
Okay.
Which is our Indian way of saying yes, no, maybe, everything. But when you're listening to somebody intently, are you staying rigid?
No,
are you keeping your head at an angle? What is the way to...
In interpersonal skills, it's an emotional exchange, right? What is interpersonal skills? It's an emotional experience that two people are having when they're communicating with each other. So nodding or acknowledging with your facial expression is a great way to practice interpersonal skills.
Interesting. So we got our eye contact where we're looking at the person in the eyes. We're having a sincere smile where we are trying to emote that sense of joy or that interest in seeing somebody.
Absolutely.
Right? Then what is the next step that you do for that first fantastic feeling when you meet somebody?
Try to pronounce their name correctly.
Okay.
Or at least just call out their name a few times. So we have this narcissistic feeling about ourselves. We love ourselves, right? So when I'm talking to you and I'm having a conversation with you, if I use Ashdin a few times, you will like to hear that word. It's psychological, and you and I, we will build better relationships. So if you want to build better relationship, even in negotiation, even first date, or whatever you're doing, when you call out the person's name a few times during conversation, you build better relationship.
So using the person's name is a great way again of creating that first impression.
That is
I think
correct.
this is so important because we go for job interviews and we are constantly worried about how we can talk about ourselves. And I think the first reaction or the first moment when you speak to your future boss possibly goes for we made our first impression. The next part is to talk to people, right? To
Right.
communicate. What are communication etiquettes?
So, what is the word communication? It's you. The first part of communication is we pay attention to you. You are the importance,
The other person.
the other person. Listening is very important. Give the other person a chance to talk. People love to talk about themselves. So, rather than giving a deadpan answer, ask open-ended question so that you don't get a deadpan answer.
Right.
And when you give an opportunity for to ask a question when the other person can talk, you build better relationship.
So always try and make the conversation about somebody else
That is
instead of
correct.
yourself.
And open-ended questions.
And open-ended questions. I was working with a client of mine and he is now looking for a job. Okay, so he just finished his college and is now looking out for a job. And he was mailing all these different businesses, etc. And he was just talking about himself. And in his interviews, he was saying, I'm telling him this about me, this about me, this about me, this about me. And I said, what did you find out about them? And he was like, I didn't understand this question. I was like, did you learn anything about the person that you're in front of? Because that is the person who's going to give you this job. The more you let the other person talk, the better impression they leave.
100%.
You leave behind when you're going. So I think this communication part on letting the other person talk is very, very critical. But whenever we think of etiquette, there is so much of manners. Do this, not that. Do this, not that. It is like, that is the first impression we normally get when we think of etiquette. Where did that come from?
It's not a rigid code of conduct. It's very old school way of thinking about etiquette. You have to be prim and proper. You have to do this. If you do this, that's not very nice. In fact, one thing is definitely not etiquette if you correct someone's manners. That's unless she's a grandmother, your mother, or a coach. So even if I notice an etiquette faux pas, I shouldn't be correcting you or anybody. That is an etiquette faux pas. That goes against etiquette. The whole idea of etiquette is make the other person feel in your company. It doesn't matter which fork and knife you use. It doesn't matter if you have a little bit of a problem with your dining etiquette. All that can be taught. But how I feel in your company matters.
So then why do we have so much of ceremony around which fork, which knife?
That's manners.
Why
That
do I
comes
have
under the
asparagus
manners.
tongs versus, so like what is the funda of all of that?
That's just manners. It's just nice to learn. If you're dining with a client in America, and if he's an elderly gentleman, he's twisting and turning and eating in an American way, and you reciprocate and you mirror the same. If you're dining with someone from Britain and you know how to, place your cutlery in a British way, you build better relationships. Same thing with continental way of dining. It's good to learn, but that's not everything about etiquette.
Okay, so it is not that there is one universal way of using a knife and a fork.
3 ways.
There are 3 ways of doing
and
this.
And if you just don't let go of Asian and obviously Japanese way and Asian way, totally different. Indian way, huge
Very
about
different.
How to have Indian etiquette is beautiful. Yes, so when we teach Western dining in continental, British and American.
So these are 3. I didn't think the Americans had a code of conduct in terms of etiquette.
They twist and turn.
But that is their style.
That's
Would
their
that
style.
have been an etiquette thing? Because etiquette would have come out from Europe and the UK, according
Normally.
to me, right? So
European aristocrats.
Correct, right? So it is the royal families that would have created these rules of manners. So I think it was, from the French courts where
That is
it
correct.
started. And then from there, they said that if you have to be in our company, you need to know these forms of manners. It's not
Louis
necessarily...
Philippe, yes.
Correct. Louis Philippe started this. And then you start going down, and it was not necessary for example, the peasants to know these manners at that point of time. But now we're saying that etiquette needs to be universal.
It is.
in a
Because
way.
we live in an egalitarian society. Right? It's not aristocrats versus the commoners anymore. So what the protocol, the way to use, the way to dine, the way to socialize, the way to drink your wine properly, That's actually the aristocrats wanted to have their own little set of conduct because the upper class wanted to differentiate themselves. But that's historical,
Correct.
not anymore. Okay, so because we operate from an egalitarian society, it's not. I mean, you'll be laughed at if you even talk about it.
Absolutely, and there is so much pushback on the royal families and the aristocracy, and they're saying that why do we want to be like those privileged people? And I have an issue with the word privilege, but it's constantly there, right? And in that context, when we are trying to, or not trying to be, but like when we are learning about these fancy ways of eating or behaving.
That's just madness. It's a huge misunderstanding that etiquette is for the privileged society, for the upper class, for the aristocrats, for only the elites. I'm sorry, but not true. Etiquette, you can, I have met people from very humble society. They are very gracious, you know. Being gracious, being kind, being nice to somebody is etiquette. Okay, so the manners, dining etiquette, how do you shake your hand, how to create a first impression. A coach like me or you can teach. But how to be a good human being,
Very difficult.
it's an upbringing.
Correct.
Right?
And in fact, all through we learn about manners. And if you break it down as manners, then it's completely different. It's the way that your parents taught you how to behave, or society taught you how to behave in this way. I remember having a conversation with my dad ages ago about this. He said that why does Japan have so many manners and rules?
Great.
Right? It was a very interesting observation.
It's amazing.
I'm going next week. And the whole idea of Japan was that because they're in such a close proximity to each other, they needed the manners in order to live harmoniously with each other. So the idea of manners was, again, to make the other person feel comfortable in this context. What are some etiquettes for the business place or the workplace?
Oh, very. We witness it all the time that, shaking hands sitting down or, offering a handshake across the table, not standing up. And so the whole idea of handshake is you stand up and you show your entire body. So you sort of walk around the table, offer a handshake, offer your guest a seat, and then you come back and take your seat. You definitely don't shake hand across the table.
Right.
So these are the simple things. But again, etiquette is not, it's really starts with how do I make you feel? Americans are good at it. Americans, they don't follow the rigid code of conduct of, the being so prim and proper, being so, uptight. The Europeans and the British, they are more, obviously they take etiquette and manners very seriously and they practice it and all of that. But so I studied in Europe and London, in Britain. I became an image consultant. And then I went to do my master's in business etiquette from America. So I was a little culture shocked. I was like, what am I learning? It's so casual. So as an etiquette consultant, when I was growing up and when I was educating myself in Europe and in Britain, I was taught everything about manners, about being the prim and proper, about being the very fancy and upper class, and this is how to do it. But when you go to America, it's about conflict resolution, business etiquette. They don't care how to hold a glass of wine by the stem or not, but they do care if my relationship with you is good or not.
So it's actually more about making the person feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Than the showcasing of the manners.
Absolutely. Because America is a business society. They are not aristocrats, right? They are working class. They were always working class. So it's a business society. Now, India is also like that right now. India is a business community. So right now, obviously, manners, we follow the manners of Britain, for example. But principles of etiquette are very, very important right now.
So what kind of people come to you to learn about etiquette? Like
business family kids.
Business families.
The heir of business family kids, because when they are, before they are introduced to the board, because they have to learn to build better relationship with people from very different generations. So for example, the heir to an industrialist would be probably 34 or 32, but then he's either going to get an MBA from Ivy League school or come back. But then before you introduce that person to the board, he has to look credible and he has to be perceived as a credible, good person. Likability factor is a very important factor in etiquette, And
how do you work on likability?
When you learn good manners and etiquette, the likability factor comes immediately. So coming back to personal branding, we teach a lot about personal branding. So personal branding starts with a few notes: credibility, efficiency, likability, and trustworthiness. So credibility is you have to be good at your job. If you're not competent, everything else fails.
Correct.
So you have to be credible. You have to get that MBA. You have to get that basic education. And then efficiency. You have to be efficient. People should be able to depend on you. You can't be so
Casual about these
casual
things.
about everything. You can't be late. You have to take things more professionally. So, and you have to show that this is, my work or my relationship is my priority. So that is very important. So efficiency comes. And then likability is like etiquette, when you make the other person feel good, when you're more efficient in your work, when you're more giving, right? That conflict resolution, if you can resolve a relationship situation very nicely. When credibility, efficiency, and likability factors are working for you, the trust comes automatically. And that is the whole idea of personal branding. In image consulting, that's what we teach. We teach how to be the best version of yourself. So image consulting is one way. All the image consultants are doing only style analysis, color analysis, body analysis, wardrobe analysis, personal shopping, photo shoot, all of that. That's on the surface level. But etiquette, the non-verbal communication, relationship building, body language, your communication, your business etiquette, your first impression, when image consulting and etiquette goes hand in hand, that's superb. Your personal branding, you see the transformation.
Very interesting. Because this relationship building is something that is very, very important.
Very.
And, I keep talking to people about this, saying that most of us don't know how to make friends. Like, you don't know the steps of building a relationship.
Because 3/4 of the world have social anxiety.
There you go, right? If you're socially anxious, how are we going to go out and make friends? Most of our friends are people that we knew of in school, and that's it. And then we might pick up a few in our work life. But there are people who are brilliant at building relationships. What are the things that these people do correctly? What are things that we can learn?
Some people are just very social and outgoing growing up. But if you're not, you can't afford to be a wallflower in today's world. Because no matter how competent you are, no matter how credible you are, if you don't open your mouth and if you don't go and socialize with other human beings, if you hide yourself behind social media, it's not going to work. Look at American business society. Who are in the upfront, right? The finance people, the hedge fund people. You have to have people skills. If you can't have, then hire a coach and get it done. You know what I mean? And do it when you're in your late 20s, early 30s. It is going to be difficult when you're 50s.
To change later.
Everything else can be taught. Etiquette and, a little image consulting, communication, public speaking, all of that is one thing. But that social anxiety, you have to work on it.
Are there any steps of creating relationships or creating friends or, moving in that direction? Like, how do you start off from not knowing somebody to becoming a friend with somebody? Have you noticed any stages that we teach in coaching?
Well, first of all, psychologically, visual impact plays a very important role. If you look well put together, first of all, it works in your favor. Albert Mehrazabians, I'm sure you heard about him.
Tell me about it.
So he was a psychologist and he came up with this whole analogy that with our visual impact, we build relationship.
Okay.
Right? Now, how much is how much? 70% or 72%, if I'm not, it's only visual. When I look at you, do I like looking at you? It's superficial, but that is the truth. Then comes 38% of your non-verbal communication, your body language and your etiquette and all of that. And only 7% matters that what you're pitching. Am I teaching etiquette or am I pitching for finance or am I pitching to raise funds? What am I doing? Only 7% matters. So if that 72% or 78% and the 38% works hand in hand, 58%. 58% and 38%. It works hand in hand. That 7% matters less.
So the way that you look when you arrive.
Visual impact. Pay attention. Look the way that you feel very comfortable. If you're going with your slouching body language, posture is nowhere, you yourself will feel not confident.
There are so many people who pay no attention to their looks. What's going on there?
And some people are very comfortable, even socializing, paying no attention to the looks, and that's fine, right?
Do we need to start doing that? Do we not? Like, what is the...
No, it's not. I mean, it's a priority, okay? If somebody feels like I am very casual, that's who I am, you can't make them feel comfortable in a three-piece suit because that's who they are. As long as they build a good relationship. Don't we see so many people from, the industry, like a cinematographer, and they are very casual, but they have great skills, social skills, right? And that's what is important. How do you build relationship? And if you build fabulous relationship with your shorts and t-shirts and sneakers, go ahead. No problem. But build relationship. Don't have social anxiety. Because what happens with social anxiety? When you hide yourself, can you see the competence? Can I show you my skills? Can I show you how good I am at my job? Nothing. You can't afford to be,
So it's very interesting because my perception is changing. I always thought that you should always try and be a little better dressed or better thing. But you're saying that if the person is comfortable in shorts and a t-shirt, that's where the confidence is going to come from.
And if he is that person, he is that person.
He's that person.
And an image consultant can work with him and make him the best version of the very casual person. You can't tell a tech entrepreneur to wear a blue suit and a white shirt. He's not going to do that.
So if I love loafers, short pants and a t-shirt, how would an image consultant work with me on that?
Maybe he can convince you to wear a pair of chinos instead of loafers, and then the whole look is instead of a pair of shorts. And then the whole look is still fine.
So it's a slightly different, but
an
still very casual.
An image consultant never ever changes your style. An image consultant works with you to make you the best version of yourself, right?
It's very interesting. So it's not a chapa of this is what a successful person looks like that is put on you.
Also, by the way, successful person, image consulting is a lot about trying to make you look what you do. So an investment banker, he should look like a very successful investment banker. A lawyer, he should look like a very credible lawyer. And then you can command a better price. When you look successful, you can be successful.
Very interesting. So I'm changing my track of mind as well because I love the way that you're discussing this, saying that the comfort and the confidence is the most important part.
You have to be you.
You have to be you. Figure out what you are. Many people don't know who you are.
And that's when an image consultant comes.
Yeah.
Because, we do something called a personality analysis or a lifestyle assessment. That's where you fill out a form and we give you like 7 to 8 styles. And we ask you to take or talk to us. And any good image consultant on international level will do something called pre-assessment session. Just to understand, like we normally, after many years of practice, we know what is your style is. But rather than me telling you this is your style and give you a prescription, that will not be very convincing for you. When you yourself learn and you do that exercise, and when you do a little, the writing your own lifestyle assessment, you yourself come and say, well, oh, I'm a classic elegant. Oh, I'm high fashion. Oh, I'm boho chic, or I'm street smart, or I prefer the semi-casual, things like that. That conviction for every client is it's very, very important.
So, Konkana, you are, doing that again. So, Konkana, you're an image consultant. What does the word style mean to you?
Style is a story you tell through your dressing. Now, that story is given to you, or you're brought up with that story through your lifestyle, with the people that you're brought up with. Could be your teacher, your grandmother, an inspiration, a lifestyle change, right? So, for example, who are the people who are contributing to you emotionally? Could be your grandfather, could be your father, and you absorb that style from them. Or could be a teacher, could be a mentor, could be an actor, could be anybody, a public figure that you genuinely reckon with them. And that's how you're influenced in your style. So a style is actually, you get your style at a young age. And sometimes, as and when you grow up, right, through any kind of lifestyle changes, your style may change. So for example, if you're an investment banker and you suddenly want to be an actor, or an athlete, obviously your style changes because there's a lifestyle change. Marriage sometimes because you're representing a new family, a new establishment, lifestyle is different, and then style change.
It's very interesting.
Kate
So it's a
Middleton,
story.
it's a story.
that
It's a
has
story
changed.
you tell. When we talk about changes of style, and we have a great example, Princess of Wales, right now, the modern Princess of Wales, Catherine, right? Before she was married to William, the Prince of Wales, she had a very sporty, chic style. Now, because she is filling up the past Princess of Wales, Diana's shoes, and she's the new Princess of Wales, right now, she is also very elegant, classic, elegant, and romantic because her lifestyle, and she's representing the royal family. And that's why there's a huge change and transformation in her lifestyle. So lifestyle transformation contributes to your change of style as
Your
well.
change of style. And is style something that is consciously created or subconsciously created? Like for most people, like I don't know where my style came from. Like we don't necessarily sit down and say, this is the story that I want to tell the world.
Yeah, it's subconsciously.
It's subconscious.
In fact, if you want to consciously create something which is not you, it just doesn't go with your personal branding, with your personal natural image, for example.
But you know, they say dress for success, dress for the job you want, dress for the person you want to
100%.
become. Right? But those aspects are not me yet. So how do I bridge the gap from who I am right now to who I want to be when it comes to style?
So you are a habit coach. You're a mentor to young people and anybody who wants to be successful. Do you look like one? That's what matters. That's the beginning and the end of the story. Do I look like an image consultant? Do I look like an etiquette consultant? If I don't, then I'm doing something wrong.
So then there is a mismatch.
There's a mismatch.
Right. So like for example, when you have life coaches that look too young and people say, what life coach can you be? You've not lived your life. So there is one way of thinking about
there
it.
we teach something called situational dressing and color combination. When you wear, young people in the business world, when you wear high contrast color combination, you look more credible and authoritative. Like a black and white or a blue and white and a red and ivory for the ladies. So high contrast color combination gives you authority, so that makes you look more mature, more credible.
Interesting.
Right? Now, for example, a young heir to the industrialist family, he or she needs to look like, he's credible and efficient and personal branding. So we put them in high contrast color combination. On other hand, when we have business people who are very authoritative, they already have a very, very strong personality, we put them in medium contrast color combination so that they look more approachable.
So you don't want them to be that stark.
No.
Okay, so that is the way that you would tweak.
We tweak.
The way the
we
style
teach
of
something called situational dressing, and that is let the situation work in your favor. So if I'm teaching young adult, I'll wear something like a jeans and a yellow t-shirt and I'll teach. Will I dress the same way if I'm teaching the C-suite executives? Obviously not. But if I'm teaching young people, young adults, in my black suit and a white shirt and high heels, how will they feel? So situational dressing is very important.
Interesting. We were talking about manners earlier in the podcast. Many people say I have manners, right? My parents have taught me manners. Why do I need an etiquette coach? What is the difference there?
To burst those myths that manners is only for the people who are very well mannered, or etiquette is only for the people who are very well mannered. Etiquette is a subject to learn, just like psychology or history or finance. Okay? Just because you want to go to a finishing school or you want to go to an etiquette consultant, that doesn't mean you're ill-mannered. It's just to refine your understanding. Conflict resolution, it has got nothing to do with manners. It's more etiquette, it's more principles, it's more how do you resolve relationship issues. Consultants like us are invited in MNCs because in the higher level, they have conflicts. And they can't afford to let go of senior executive because obviously senior executives contributes a lot to the organization and there is a cost for letting go of senior executives. Then etiquette consultants like us are invited to teach these things even to very, very senior C-suite executives.
Interesting. So
And
even though
very,
you've reached this stage in life, to improve so that you don't have personal relationship problems in the future, you learn the aspects of etiquette. So even though you have the manners, now you've polished it so that you don't create conflict
That
going
is
ahead.
correct. And that has got nothing to do with you not learning manners. They may have exceptional dining etiquette skills. But if they are not having great relationship with their clients or subordinates or colleagues, what's the point of that dining etiquette?
Correct. So have you noticed the way etiquette is being taught change over the years?
It has.
Right? Because like there's so many people who who would make fun and say like, why do I need a fish knife and a fish fork separately from what I'm having right now?
You don't need it in today's manners. In fact, you don't, because that was a very aristocratic protocol.
Correct.
Aristocrats, French aristocrats or European aristocrats, that was their way of showing or portraying wealth. How many, the silverware, they used to, that's why put the fork downwards so that they could show the designs in the fork.
Correct.
That's why Europeans put the fork and
Tines facing down.
tines facing down. And that's the whole idea. But the whole idea of these are the strawberry forks, these are the fish knife. Great. If you go to a French Michelin star, very, very fine dining restaurant, good to know, because if you know what is a fish knife, then you don't have an awkward situation when you go to a very, very nice restaurant. But it's not a make or mar situation, really. It's not.
So are there any general thumb rules that you can follow for people who have never experienced this 35 forks and knives
Not
of dining?
Not necessarily at all.
But you enter a restaurant that is a fine dining restaurant, which has this. Are there any guiding principles?
Your grandmother must have taught you outside in always.
Outside in.
Outside in.
So can you just explain that to our listeners?
So for example, maybe a soup spoon will be your further right, and then something, maybe a knife will be, or a fork will be your further left, and whatever the courses will go on, it'll be outside in. The first course, you'll go further to the left or right to take that soup spoon or the fork, and then you walk towards inwards. If you don't know anything, just learn normal continental way of dining. It's very easy. Or just remember outside in.
Outside in.
Yes. And another thing I would like to mention, because I witness a lot of it, just to use bread rolls. Like when you go for a nice fine dining restaurants, they give you nice bread rolls, and you don't really cut it inside. You put one bite size and smaller bite size.
So you break your bread, you don't cut your bread.
No, you don't.
Right? So you break your bread and then you use
bites.
the small bites, not a big monster bite, so you can have conversation afterward. Interesting. All right. Not to talk with your mouth full, though. So.
Yeah. If you have to do this, that means you probably have too much food in your mouth. One thing about dining etiquette is really not about enjoying the meal. It's about relationship building.
Interesting. So it's not kya maja aaya with the food. It is about the relationship that you're forming at the dining table.
That is correct. It's not about grabbing those bread rolls or lovely, brioche and, having the spaghetti. In fact, we have a whole subject on what are the food not to order.
Oh, lovely. Tell me some.
Spaghetti or anything that's very saucy or very spicy or something too delicious, not allowed.
So I used to tell my friends when we were in college that this is not first date food. Like if you eat this in front of your first date, you'll have like sauce all over your face, dribbling down your shirt. This is not the stuff to order
really.
in first date food. So what are the kinds of things that... So say somebody is either going on their first date or they're going on their first business dinner. What would you suggest they order and behave in that kind of an environment?
So let the client enjoy, for example. Let your client enjoy those lovely saucy spaghetti, meatball sauce and stuff like that. Let him enjoy. You'll build better relationship. You try not to. Stick to that salad or stick to something which is non-controversial, which is not too saucy or,
So can you role play this entire evening out? So what would it look like? So say you said that I'm going to be coming here at 8 o'clock. We meet at this particular restaurant at 8 o'clock.
Certainly.
What would happen? Let's role play this whole thing out.
If you're my client and I'm hosting you, for example, we have 45 minutes and it's a business lunch. Just to save time, I'll give you the menu in advance. And you can make a little bit of a joke about it, or just to, stimulate your appetite or something like that. And then you glance through the menu without the pricing, because I'm hosting, and you make up your mind that, okay, I'm going to have the duck salad and the brioche or something like that, the soup, something like that. And I obviously know the menu, and you obviously always host be it your first date or your client, to a restaurant that you've been several times.
This is an important one.
Very. Not to a new one.
So take somebody to a restaurant you know well.
Always. Because you know the service, you know the hospitality. You can pre-authorize your credit card, though in India it's a little bit of a challenge. But when you go to a restaurant that you've been several times, you can speak to the maitre d' in advance and say, well, this is my credit card. Do not present the bill in front of my client, because you do not want to have that.
No, grab it.
No, it's very, money is never a sign of elegance. Never. So you do not want that. You don't want to see the bill and write, your signature on it and stuff like that. It's settled. That's a lot more elegant. Be it you're taking your date or a client, it's just settled.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So you would obviously reach a little earlier than the person.
Yes, always 15 minutes before. And you choose the table. Don't go to the social table, as we call it, which is right in the middle of the restaurant. It's a social table. You'll have too many distractions. And for your business meeting especially, you do not want the distraction. You want your client, you want to steal your client away. So probably something on the corner table or something like that.
Okay, so you go there early, you choose the table that you want, preferably a corner table. You sit down. What do you do then?
And offer a seat with a better view to your guest.
Okay.
And then you have a seat and order something. And when you look at the menu, don't go, I want to have this. No. You want to have the salad and the soup.
So more decisive.
Very decisive. You make up your mind to not spend time on deciding factor. That's not important, because relationship is very important. That meeting is very important. That evening you want to spend with your girlfriend or your date is very important, not the food.
It is almost as the food is
complementing to the
event that is taking place.
To the relationship. By the way, the best way to build relationship is to share a meal.
Absolutely, right?
And that's why we invite
together.
people.
Yes.
What was Jesus broke a bread, right? The whole idea of breaking a bread is to build relationship.
So it is about eating together, but not necessarily about the food. So it is not that you spend the first 15 minutes having a conversation about the food, or you must try this soup, or you must do this, etc., etc.
Have the first 10 minutes having a conversation about their life. Nothing to do with business. About them, their family, what they like. Something which will build better relationship. Works like a charm with negotiation, by the way. Never get straight to business. Always talk
a little bit about
family
life,
and stuff.
Create a rapport.
With the always
person.
Very important. First 10-15 minutes do that, and then you can talk business.
I remember in college telling my friends that, whenever you meet somebody, always have a list of conversations ready. So that's what I used to do, because I was super shy meeting people, right? I'm an introvert, so very shy. So when I used to go and meet people, I used to have a list of topics that I knew were comfortable, that I would be happy to have a conversation with and know about. And that really helps the conversation flow. Is that something that you suggest? What kind of conversations?
The great way to, if you're meeting somebody one-on-one, know a little bit about them. What they like, who they are, do they have children, everything. Then it'll be easier for you to strike a conversation. Otherwise, you can always, safe bet is, what a lovely day. Or, great party. I love this restaurant. The food is amazing. The music is great. What do you like to do? How do you spend your time? Tell me about you. Things like that.
Interesting.
I think that's very important. Avoid money. Avoid that huge question, what do you do? Because what do you do straight away links to how much money you make.
Interesting.
And money is never a conversation which is elegant. Avoid money. And avoid, are you married? Because you never know if he or she wants to get married.
Correct.
Do you have children? And obviously nothing like, are you gay? Something like that.
Or like political parties, views, sport teams. These are things that you start avoiding as well.
Maybe what are you watching on Netflix? Is there anything interesting you're watching?
It's very neutral as a conversation.
Absolutely
to start with.
Neutral.
And then when you end this particular event, I'm calling it an event now after what
Which
you were
is
saying.
Dining or just socialize? Okay.
Right? What do you do? What is the best way of seeing somebody off?
Just let him take his time, and then, if he's ready to have desserts, and then you have dessert and you walk him out. And never ever try not to get the check in front of him.
So this would be a great way of structuring a meal together.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Be a good host.
Be a good host. All right, lovely. So, Konkana, very often we're invited for parties where we don't know anybody there, right? We land up and we know the host and nobody else. What is a great way of mingling or talking to people? What do you do in a situation like that?
Technically, the host should introduce you to someone or at least a couple of people. If she's too busy and she may not have the time, you can always ask. For example, if you come to my party, you're like, Konkana, tell me about this person. Who is he? And I'll say, oh, his name is John. And tell me something about him. Oh, he likes to ski. And you go to John. Hello, John. My name is Ashdin. Pleasure. And da-da-da. By the way, Konkana said, you're a great skier. I never said anything about how good he is a skier. I just said he's skiing.
Correct.
You know, so something like that. And be confident. And by the way, it's a great quality. If you can go up to someone and say, hello, may I join? Nobody will say, please don't come and join us. Who would say that?
Correct.
In fact, you should. That means it shows how confident you are. In today's world, little children, by the way, in our generation, if you see little kids, they come to you and say hello. And we adore them, right? The oxytocin level is like, I love her. So that's what you need to do. You need to go up to people with a great sincere smile and a facial expression. Say, hello, my name is so-and-so. That's
we
it.
feel so awkward doing that, right? We feel
Why?
that we're going to be judged. What will people think about
Not at
us,
all.
etc.
Have that confidence, have that upbeat, level of confidence. By the way, looks, visual impact, and just go and talk to people. The host should technically do this, but sometimes the host is very, very busy.
You can't meet the person.
You can't.
Yeah, it's
And
too
you
busy.
cannot be a wallflower. That's just, you're just being then, we have to take care of you.
Correct.
Don't be that guest who needs too much attention.
Yes.
Just be by yourself, and a confident person, he or she is always able to build relationship like this. And that is etiquette.
That's etiquette. What about people who are the life of the party and things
That's
like that?
great.
What is it that they have that others don't necessarily in that situation?
Sometimes they just like to be extrovert. And again, not necessarily in every situation is good to be too extrovert. Situation plays. So the whole idea of etiquette is the situation must work in your favor. You may not want to steal the thunder away from the host, right?
Correct.
You may want to give them the spotlight, right? You may not want to attend a wedding where you look prettier than the bride. You shouldn't.
More decked up than the bride. Yeah, it happens very often.
Yeah, you should. Another thing about etiquette is don't bring the attention towards you. I think not a lot of people understand that about etiquette.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Don't try to bring the attention towards you too much. Don't show off, flaunt your money or accomplishments or beauty too much. No, that is actually pure etiquette. When you try not to bring attention towards you.
So understated
Be
is
understated.
what you're...
If you can be understated and elegant, that is true meaning of etiquette. Sophistication is very important. Being
to this, won't
understated.
people say that, how do I get remembered then? How will somebody remember me if I don't stand out?
If you make that is not true. I'm not asking you to be diffused completely in society, but if there are many ways that you can be remembered. Still water runs deep. Shallow water lacks depth, right? You don't have to be that person. You can be elegant, understated. Being understated is the ultimate sophistication. So there are many ways that people will remember you. People will remember you if you are able to make them feel great in your company.
Amazing.
And that's the way people will remember you.
Fantastic. Konkana, you've written a book.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
It's Art of Savoir-faire. I'd love to gift you this book. And I want to obviously write a note. The Art of Savoir-faire I've written, Ashdin, with that understanding of today's generation attention span. I did not want to write a big, thick etiquette book that your grandmother must have, read with great attention. In today's world, we lack that attention. And each and every subject, I have 144 chapters divided into sections like personal branding, business etiquette, women in business, and lifestyle etiquette.
Lovely.
And every chapter is just one page. And it's a very easy to read book, and that's why I've written it. And I hope that you enjoy reading it.
Fantastic. I definitely am going to read it
Thank
because
you.
this is such
I'll
an
just
important
write.
thing.
Yeah,
course.
sure. Okay. Let me quickly.
Thank you so much. Oh, I love the savoir-faire, the
Yeah,
SF on
the
the
fleur-de-lis.
fleur-de-lis. Ashton, I hope you enjoy reading the book as much as I enjoyed writing it. Lovely. Thank you so much, Konkana.
It's a
So
very
beautiful.
practical, modern book. I have given historical anecdotes, but I've also given a lot of logical understanding of personal branding, business etiquette, social etiquette, women in business, especially women in our personal lives, marriage and children's etiquette and lifestyle etiquette, everything.
So, earlier on, like you said, you went to like a finishing school, and that was the process in which etiquette was taught earlier on. In today's modern day and age of Instagram and this and that, how do you see this whole world of etiquette changing?
Etiquette hasn't really changed a lot. It has just become a lot more modern. If an etiquette consultant is teaching you very medieval etiquette, that's just not going to reckon with today's world.
Correct.
And something that doesn't resonate with the modern world, there is no point of that subject. So it's good to know everything, but practice the modern etiquette.
And do you see etiquette still exists in the younger generations that are growing up? Do you see etiquette has flown out the window? What is your
The younger
take on
generation perceive etiquette to be very old school and medieval.
it? Correct.
That is not true.
So what would the younger generation of etiquette be?
Just simple etiquette, like practice magic words, and I'm sure anybody knows that.
Like thank you,
Thank
please,
you,
those
please,
kinds of
and
things.
I'm sorry. Yes, greetings. How you make a person feel in your company. How do you resolve conflict? How do you build relationships? How do you have a conversation? Are these medieval? Are
So it's
these
very
too old
interesting
school?
because I'm seeing a lot of the younger generation focusing on themselves. Like we were saying, that communication is all about the you in it. It is, like when you look on social media, it is about my mental thing. My there's a lot of, insularity that is taking place. In this kind of an insular world, people are. I was watching a joke where this person said that there is a restaurant in my building on the ground floor, and I still call the Zomato guy to order the food from there because I'm not going to go down and meet somebody. So it's much easier.
That's huge social anxiety.
Right? So in a world where people are becoming more insular, where people don't want to interact with anybody, I'd order from an app so they don't have to speak to someone on a phone.
Oh, wow.
Where is the role of etiquette in all of this now? Is the etiquette moving towards social media etiquette?
Very unfortunately, because of social media, a lot of this happening where people are trying to hide behind the curtains. It's not a great thing. And that's why our generation have mental health issues. And if you look at our grandparents or parents' generation, they are much more happier because they are not consumed in Instagram and Snapchat and all of that.
Correct. We're social animals. We're not social media animals.
That is
There is
correct.
a big difference between the two.
Human beings, the best way to get rid of social anxiety is to interact with other human beings. The best way to get rid of that introvert behavior is to throw yourself and try to socialize with new people every time.
Correct.
That's the best way to get rid of social anxiety and any kind of being an introvert behavior.
Amazing. Konkana, how can people get in touch with you? How can people learn more about all the stuff that you do?
Well, I'm on Instagram. I'm on social media. Savoir-faire Academy, by the grace of God, has given a lot of prestige, and anybody can call or email us.
So what are the things that you're doing with regards to etiquette or image consulting? If you can take us through that so then people know what to contact you for.
So with our private clients, we specialize in private transformation, which is visual and non-verbal. It's a set of 21 sessions with our private clients, and I do it one-on-one with them. We sign an NDA with our private clients because they come from sensitive background, and we never ever reveal or disclose their identity. We also host, and that's 21 sessions, which guarantees transformation, complete transformation. And the private client, any client, they finish it within a month to 1.5 months. And we host about 5 workshops in a year for business etiquette, social etiquette, personal branding, image consulting, young adult finishing school program, which we do once in a year during the summer vacation. And that's about it.
And these programs are how long?
2 days.
2 days.
And young adult is about 1 week.
Okay.
And we do a 2 weeks finishing school program for the ladies, which is once a year as well. But the private transformation
is happening all the time.
Yes.
Fantastic. Konkana, thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you very much for having me over.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Ashdin.
Thank you.
IVM